This is CyberPod EU, the European cybersecurity podcast powered by Sockwise.
Actually, they can be the heroes of this new world, and we can still say that the biggest cybersecurity threat today is the expertise shortage. I think it's a positive result that 94% states that cybersecurity is now more important than ever before. Hello everyone, it's Greg again. I just finished my recording with a very interesting guest I recently met in person at our SOC event in Munich, and there we had a pretty good time together. He is a young professional in the IT security environment, or we could say in the OT security environment. He is German, but he lives and works in Israel with his family. He shared a lot of nice insights into his career path and showed how normal it could be right now to work from everywhere. But no more spoiling, let's jump into the conversation now. I hope you will enjoy this as much as I did. Hi Christoph, welcome to CyberPod EU.
Hi Greg, thank you for having me. Really excited to be here.
Yeah, it's I think several months that we've seen each other. But where are you at the moment?
Yeah, it's been some time. I mean, last time we spoke, I think, or we saw each other physically was in Munich. I'm now in Israel, in Tel Aviv, a bit north of Tel Aviv, where I live actually. And yeah, great weather, super hot, as expected. How about you?
Yeah, actually, it's hot in here, but not that hot, I'm afraid. But let's stop here for a second. So you live in Israel with your family, but
That's
you
correct.
come from Germany, Berlin, and you also work for or with companies in Europe, in Germany and other European countries. Is it correct?
That is correct.
And you are not even a developer, so
not even. No.
What do you think it represents the new normal in the work life, or is it something very special you have?
I think it's both. I mean, I'm really happy that we have these opportunities these days to live and work remotely. To live in other countries if we want to. In my case, it's a bit more difficult. I am from Germany, as you say, and I do live in Israel because my wife is from here, and being married, I got the right to live here as well as a citizen. Which makes things, like normal pretty much. Mm-hmm. I'm working remotely, and as you pointed out, working mostly in the European market out from Israel. So that's something I think is a very big development in the recent years, right? I mean, especially during the COVID time, everything changed from being at the office all the time to being at home all the time, working from home, and actually made us understand that I can do my job at least mostly from home as well.
Mm-hmm. And also, I think Tel Aviv is a very interesting place in terms of cybersecurity and startup world.
Definitely.
So I wondered when I could be there one day, because there are tremendous interesting events and companies and startups like the startup you are working with at the moment. It's a great place.
It's a great place, very vibrant, very interesting. A lot is going on, but also very westernized, so to say. So the lifestyle is very similar to places in Europe. So I didn't have to adapt much on that angle. But as you pointed out, the cyber industry or the IT industry is something that is very big in Israel, and one of the strongest sectors in the country. It's a very small country, so there's a bit of agriculture, obviously, but not much of other industries such as manufacturing and so on. So it's a lot of what they call here high-tech industries. So not only in the security space, cybersecurity space, but all around the IT sector.
Yes, for people I think who are not really familiar with the startup world, I am also an ex-startupper, so I already found out that Israel is a center, at least in the Middle East, but one of the the best places to go with a new startup because of the environment there. And you're actually also working for a startup. I would say it's a grown-up startup, still very stable, generating revenue and profit, I guess. But would you tell some words about your company and your job?
Yes, I will be happy to. So the company I work for is called SCADAfence. It is, again, like you said, not a startup anymore. We would consider ourselves more like what you call scale-up. So basically that means that we grew out of the startup phase. A couple of rounds of funding are lying behind us. We do have customers worldwide, so almost on every continent. Actually, I think now we also have customers in Australia. So actually we do have customers on every continent. So definitely not what you would consider a startup anymore. But 3 years ago when I started here, I think it was still a lot like a startup. So things are moving very fast within the company, within the organization. It's highly flexible, a highly flexible work environment. The communication ways inside the company were very, very short and very effective. So we needed to adapt very fast to things like the COVID pandemic, for example, right? That's a good one. Because I think we had it pretty easy in comparison to other organizations to adapt to that change, simply because we were smaller and very agile. Also in terms of not only the workforce, but also in terms of the median age in the company. The median age was, I don't know, from mid-30s maybe, so not really high. So there were big advantages. What SCADAfence does is we're in the cybersecurity space, and specifically here in the OT security space. So we talk a lot about IT all the time, information technology, but there's also a whole big chunk of operational technology out there, right? So a lot of organizations have what you would call OT environments, SCADA networks, ICS networks, and so on and so forth. And our main goal is to secure these networks.
Cool. And what are you doing in this interesting business?
My role is I'm the sales director for EMEA, Europe, Middle East, and Africa, but mainly focusing on Europe. And that's one of the big advantages, right? Being from Germany, living in Israel, working for an Israeli company. So it was really, it's really a big advantage to speak the language and to know the cultural differences. Because I think that maybe it goes a bit into sales too much, but there is a very big difference between Israeli mentality and the German mentality. Although I said it's very westernized here, but still it's, you need to know the nuances of each culture a bit better. And I think it's very hard for Israeli organizations to sell into markets such as, Germany or the whole DACH region. Because of a lack of, understanding the mentality and the other way around. So I think being here, knowing both cultures and mentalities is a big advantage. And linking them together, I think that makes, it fulfills my role. Basically, I think it's a good add-on for the company, SCADAfence, but also for myself. It's very interesting because I get to play these, in between these countries. It's a great
I agree.
Job.
I've just checked your background and I saw that it's your profession, so your curriculum. You've done a university on this culture as well. So, I mean the language as well, and then the area you're working and living at right away. So,
that's really was more of a personal type of interest. I studied Semitic languages, culture, and history of the Middle East back then. It was again more like an interest. There's not much. The field after to work in is limited. Let's put it like that. But I think now it's a more interesting field. What I'm working.
I agree. And referring to the OT, which is sometimes translated like industrial security. For me, actually, it was a bit of a surprise that nowadays many financial companies also invest in OT security because they have a data center, and in the data center there are cooling technologies, just to mention one, which also utilize proprietary protocols which are not really supported by the original or the normal type of IT cybersecurity tools, and that's when SCADAfence comes into play, I guess.
Exactly. So if we speak about OT environments, we don't only speak about industrial environments such as manufacturing, and critical infrastructure, water, wastewater, and so on and so forth, but also building management systems.
Building management.
True. BMS shortly. So that's where we're interesting for the financial sector, such as banks or other sectors that are operating buildings, like hotels, for example, or event venues. These type of buildings, way of access control management systems, and so on and so forth. So that's basically the connection into there.
We just need to somehow accommodate to the new sides, new vectors of threats, I guess. And one of those is that, okay, I'm in the elevator. So the elevator is actually operated by a PLC. So it's OT and so on and so forth. So true. Yeah. We have a sector or a special part of the podcast, which is called the Headline of the Week within the Cyberpod EU podcast, and I would like to continue with that.
Headline of the Week.
Today's topic is coming from an article in a German medium called T3N with the following headline, which is skills shortage threatens cybersecurity in 85% of all companies. I summarize it for the listeners and maybe for you too. So a current study revealed that a skills shortage in the cybersecurity field is threatening the cybersecurity of 85% of the German companies. But it's not only a lack of people coming in, but also about attrition. So about 30% of all cybersecurity experts stated that they consider leaving their current job. I think it's shocking. For example, that's why we conduct in our company that we conduct a career. So we create a training and a career path even before they enter the company, because this is something, the minimum these days. So some further information from the article. I think it's a positive result that 94% states that cybersecurity is now more important than ever before. And also the same proportion thinks that their company could do more to provide further education, for example, via mentorship programs. And these are the cybersecurity people who say that. And referring to more to the work and study world. So there are three levers, to solve the issue. The one is the targeted promotion of cybersecurity careers. 43% says that it would be a way out. The other is encouraging STEM, so researchers, actually students, to consider a profession. It was 41%, and maybe some better financial aid for the students. It's also 39%. So pretty big portion of the participants say that. So Christoph, what do you think? How will this affect the cybersecurity world? I mean, this shortage.
It will have a big effect. I mean, we already see now that what you say there is most organizations, or the vast majority of organizations, they're lacking people in IT and specifically in IT security, I guess. And that's very similar to, or actually it's fitting hand in hand with what I experience when I speak to organizations in terms of, offering our products, or organizations that are interested in purchasing our products, because oftentimes we get to a certain point where they say, oh, it's great to have a software such as yours in place that can give me visibility into my networks, and that can give me the network maps and all type of, features, heavy analysis on the traffic and so on and so forth. But it's a lot of data, and I don't have somebody that can look at the data and make actual sense out of it. So having softwares or tools that can support the IT field is one thing. I mean, that will be helpful. It is helpful. That's why there's a huge market for these type of products. But on the other hand, it always gets only so far as where the organization is limited within itself by actually handling these type of solutions. And you could throw 20 software solutions at an organization. If there's only 3 people actually handling these or dealing with these, then it's really that's a big problem. So that's where I
Really
think a very, very big market is, or a very big way out is outsourcing these security services, which outsourcing is often a word that is not, I mean, when we speak about outsourcing, it triggers certain feelings and emotions, right? Like people losing their jobs or whatever, and so on and so forth. In this case, it actually is the opposite, right? I mean, outsourcing security could mean that people can focus within the organization, can focus on their actual jobs and be secure, feel secure that someone else is doing the heavy lifting on the security side, such as SOC providers. And that's where our organization also went right away in the last, I think, 9 to 12 months. We started to develop our own managed services for our products, meaning that because we hit this point with many customers where they say, yeah, the product is great, everything is good, we tested it, we did a POC or whatever. But what do I do once I purchase this? Who will look at it? Who will make sense of it? Who will deal with the alerts? Who will, make the operators, basically? So that's why we develop these services that we also offer now. And by ourselves, but also for partners, of course, so providers and so on and so forth, which even give a better or more holistic offering to the customers, right? By combining several security solutions. And I think that's where the industry is heading towards. I mean, very large organizations. I see very, very large organizations where you would think they have an own IT security team, which they don't. They outsource. They use external providers. That's one thing. The second thing is, you mentioned cyber or security personnel is being valued more and more in organizations, right? That was one of the takeaways from the article. So I think that is also something that we see, or that we so we conducted a study ourselves as well recently.
I was wanting to ask about that.
Which is addressing more the OT side of things, obviously, because we are an OT security provider. But converging or the OT IT convergence is basically so far along already that even if teams don't want to work together, teams are working together, or IT and OT are very much converged already. Speaking about Industry 3.0 to Industry 4.0, and this where we are currently, there are so many IT devices in the OT networks, and it goes hand in hand. So what we saw from the survey is basically what organizations are looking for are networking people, but also automation experts and so on and so forth, and cyber personnel. And from all these 3 categories, the cyber personnel is actually getting paid the highest. So I think that's a strong indicator of, first of all, the supply and demand on the market. There's a shortage of security people or personnel. Hence, companies are willing to pay more for these people. I think that will make the field more attractive for people to get into this, and hopefully kind of have the effect that there will be more people in the cybersecurity field in the future, like near or midterm future, by just making these jobs so attractive, right?
Absolutely agree. Sorry.
But on the other hand, demand will increase as well, right? So we learned in other articles that everything is being digitalized, and organizations are growing on that angle, and need more and more people for security as well. So both will go up eventually, demand and supply, I guess. So there will still be a gap, I assume. But again, that's where like service providers come into the play.
I agree. Actually, it was really fascinating that your survey reached 3,500 professionals, in OT and IT. So I think that's very rarely done. So I think it's really worth reading it. And I'm just promoting our podcast, because we are going to talk a bit more detail about this. So please follow us on it. For me, what I found the most interesting, that there was a question regarding that what do they, I mean the answer regarding the participants, what do they consider the greatest risk on OT compromise? Mm-hmm. And 79% finds that the human factor is the biggest risk, and only 11 the technology, and 10 the processes. But sorry to say, but I'm afraid these people have never ever looked into the challenges of protecting the OT environment. Yes, human is very, very important. I absolutely agree, but I think there is some kind of a misunderstanding. I'm afraid even that is 79% shows that the participants of the survey might be among the ones who don't really understand the challenge here. So I'm just talking about the proprietary protocols, the special communications, absolutely missing the network segmentation within large and even critical infrastructures. So yeah, my opinion is that is false. So
I think on that angle, most professionals in the OT environments are like their primary goal is obviously to keep production, or to enable production, or not production, but to enable the environments to work right. May it be production and manufacturing, or may it be in the critical infrastructure. Even more important, right, that things are operating. So that's why they call operational technology. And then only, I don't know, second or third priority for them is probably the security aspect.
That's unless
there are security people for the OT world. And we see more and more IT specialists or IT security specialists with networking background filling in roles in organizations such as OT security, like instead of IT security analysts or like OT security specialists. So we see organizations that actually have a head of OT security, right? So that's something that
me too. This is new, but I really feel welcome. This is a positive change, definitely.
So I mean, most of the people probably that work on the operational side, they have to take care that things can be operational, obviously, and there's no downtime and so on and so forth. And then there should be, as an addition, people that take care of the security part in the OT space as well. But the human error is it is an interesting one, as you said. Maybe the executives that were interviewed have a different understanding of what's human error. Maybe they don't trust their employees, or
I'm afraid they think that if the people connect their laptop, their maintenance laptop on the internet, that's the biggest risk. Of course it is, or plugging a USB stick with non-scanned content into a machine. That's of course a risk. But if you address that, that's absolutely far from being enough. So there are much more sophisticated attacks. You and I, we know that, but it seems that still the vast majority of people never ever realize that. And So going back to the other article, it says that there are millions of people missing from the market. But on the other hand, I'm not sure if it was in the article, but I think that the mindset should also be changed, because you can hire good cybersecurity people, but if they don't belong to the management, so it will not be part of their strategy, their mindset actually. So it will never succeed. So that's my thoughts on it.
Yeah, I think also on that angle, hiring people is one thing, but what I see here, or what I think that's it's even a meme in some cybersecurity communities. These HR requests for hiring people, most of them request, you need 2 to 3 years experience on that platform. You need 3 to 4 years experience on that platform. You need this and this certifications. It's crazy, a crazy amount of requirements, which in the end is great to have, but it will narrow down the potential like the pool of potential employees like very, very much if you put all these requirements in and don't give people that, just graduated a chance, for example, to grow into these roles, or by locking out a lot of potential experts or people that have a good understanding of what security actually is, but maybe they don't bring these certificates with them, or maybe they don't have that X amount years of experience, or maybe even they don't have a degree from a university or whatsoever, right? I mean, but still they can be brilliant people in IT security. And I think that's something that organizations might also need to learn, to give these people a chance, and then you probably have a bigger pool to fish in.
Absolutely, you're absolutely right. So concerning our subject, this actually is work in cybersecurity, what we too do as well. So what do you recommend for students or young professionals right now? So which sector should attract them the most, or where are the hidden gems where they can find their future? What do you think? What would you do if you were 25? Are you?
Not so far away.
I'm afraid. 22 or even less.
Yeah. So, as I said earlier, I think you can see by certain studies they show, or studies that were conducted, or even like portals such as Glassdoor or whatever, that cybersecurity pays well in comparison to other. I mean, I think the whole IT sector pays relatively well in comparison to other sectors, but I think specifically the cyber or the security part of it pays even more now, and that's something that makes it much more attractive, I think, for young professionals, and probably also an incentive for students to maybe specialize in that direction, or proceed a career path in that area. What I can tell you about the differences, for example, in Germany and Israel, or in Israel in particular, it's a very interesting setup, because here in the army there is everybody needs to go to the army here, like 2 or 3 years, and there's a unit in the army, the A200 unit, which is called the cyber unit, basically. So they do everything related to cyber warfare and so on and so forth. And these people that work in these units, they come there when they're like 19, 20, but they didn't study anything before. And they get exposed to this type of, practical hands-on security in their 3 year or even more. I mean, sometimes they extend even to a 5 year span, they become officers and whatsoever. So that's people that work in this field 5 years, day to day, and really hands-on, meaning that there's really, there's behind the scenes, there's a lot going on between Israel and other nations here, in the cyberspace. So these people drop out when they're 22, 23. They don't have a BSc or a master degree in anything, but they have a ton of experience. Yeah. And a lot of founders of cybersecurity firms in Israel, by the way, SCADAfence is one of them. Our founders also came from that unit, founded it basically when they were 24, founded SCADAfence without any university degrees and so on and so forth. And these people are the most, organizations are jumping on these people once they drop out of the army, right?
I can imagine.
They have a lot of opportunities to work. And I think that's one of the differences. I'm not sure how it is in Germany. I mean, I know people studying IT and so on and so forth, and universities. There's dual programs as well, which are probably very good because of the practical approach. I think that's something that studying in university and having everything in theory is one thing. It's great, but even better is if you have also some practical experience that you can bring into organizations. So
that might be one reason that the cybersecurity brand of Israel is so strong. I think it's one of the most important
definitely
aspects.
Definitely, yeah.
I never considered that, to be honest. So, but it's fascinating. So that I really feel that we need a lot of cybersec people in this challenging and growing digital world. The cyber threat landscape gets wider and wider. Thousands of companies just now realize that they have to do something hire people, train themselves, change their attitude. That's what we are covering now. And a good point could be for newcomers that there are tons of new technologies showing up, automation, AI, even in OT, new solutions like yours as well, and at which there is no advantage of the older ones. So actually they can be the heroes of this new world. And I think it's also something to consider for young people. So they can quickly prove and realize their life goals pretty soon. What do you think?
Absolutely.
Is it true?
Absolutely. And there's, it's a job outlook, or the outlook on a professional career in that vector or sector, is probably, it's a very stable outlook, I think. So people talk about AI replacing people and jobs and stuff, but I think AI is just growing the market in, especially the professional market for people that want to work in it. So I think for decades to come, this is a very good career path, to be honest.
We agree. So come people, come to this area. Okay, let's turn a bit to another angle. So what do you think the biggest challenge will come on the cybersecurity environment in the next couple of years, maybe even more, if you'd like? What kind of challenges do you see?
So I think the biggest one is the one that we discussed throughout the podcast now, shortage of people, ultimately. But again, we do see a shift there, like, outsourcing and so on and so forth. Obviously, attacks will get more and more sophisticated, but so do the defense strategies and the solutions which will prevent these attacks. Awareness is such a big buzzword. I think that awareness is a challenge, and some organizations, I think that upper management is not fully aware of the risk that is being posed by cybersecurity attacks, for example, what kind of input it can have or impact it can have into an organization. Example, I speak to organizations where upper management thinks that, if that's what insurance is for, right? If there's a cyber attack, that's why we have insurance for. I mean, that's a very dangerous approach, I think, to that type of it can have a huge impact if the production line is down for an hour or two. It can have a huge impact on an organization, and we've seen this in the past. That's, by the way, I think something that is improving, that these cyber attacks are getting public more often. So meaning that organizations are not willing to just pay a ransom and go on quietly, and pretend that nothing happened, but actually involving the police, for example, and the media, and make these type of things public, and that is creating awareness. So I think that's a good, but it still is probably room to create more awareness all the time. I think these are pretty much the 2-3 biggest challenges that I see.
Thank you. I think for me, it is also complexity. You mentioned that. So the vectors for threats and the technology we use getting more complex. Actually, these are so complicated that we consider them more like black boxes. So there's less and less people understanding what really happens in the core, in the database or in the computing center and the architecture. So it might lead into some disasters, I guess. And one of the new technologies, sorry?
No, go ahead.
So the one is this quantum computing. That might, of course, be a huge effect on us. But I think we'll have an episode on that. That's a huge universe, I guess, of new issues rising up. So, but this complexity to address, I think it's the best way to address is getting smart, dedicated people on our side. So, still coming back to the original questions. Okay.
It needs to be more lucrative also to be on the good side, if you want, right, of cybersecurity, and not on the bad side if you're already skilled. So it should be a no-brainer to go to the side where actually you protect organizations from being attacked. And then the complexity-wise, as you said, an overkill on solutions out there, which I think we all see, or especially like if you're talking about CISOs or again security specialists, they have so many solutions offered and thrown at them that everyone has, and SCADAfence is part of it, but everyone has new features and different features that everyone wants to be unique in this way and that way, offering all kind of features that might be relevant, and but at the end it's probably overwhelming to security professionals as well, and to be sure to go with the right solution and so on, and that these solutions can be integrated with each other. It's a big issue or a big topic. That was leading back again to SOC providers, for example, which one of the biggest strengths of SOC providers is that they actually make sure that these different types of systems are operating together, and customers or organizations can actually make the most sense out of all these solutions.
Okay.
But that's definitely complex.
Yeah, but if we look at this issue from the positive aspect or angle, we will see that there is a growth in it. SCADAfence is growing, SOCwise is growing, so there is a future for us, for all. But to wrap up this episode today, we can say that very, very oversimplified, but we can still say that the biggest cybersecurity threat today is the expertise shortage and the lack of know-how within the management. So these two things have the most effect. So we on ourselves do what we can do as well with this podcast together with Christoph Bechtel today. So with that, I would like to thank to our dear listeners, and I hope that we will meet in our next episode of Cyberspot EU. Thank you very much, Christoph, being with us today.
Thank you for the invitation. It was a pleasure.
And have a nice day for now. And see you next time, people.